Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro RPG. And this time we're going to be having a look at the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. Now, I have in the past mentioned that I run 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons from only the Player's Handbook. I don't own the Dungeon Master's Guide or Monster Manual. So, how come I've got a physical copy here? Well, my son has all three core rulebooks for 5th edition, because he's a Dungeon Master as well. He runs some Dungeons & Dragons, and he runs some Vampire. So I nipped to him and borrowed his Dungeon Master's Guide for us to have a look through. But anyway, let's go over to the desktop and have a look through the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. So, this is the Dungeon Master's Guide for Dungeons & Dragons by Wizards of the Coast, and it came out in 2014. And while I have run 5th edition quite extensively, mainly for a community group down at my local community centre for younger gamers, I never felt the need for this book. The Player's Handbook was all I needed. And leafing through it supports my view on that, although I can see what they've done. But we'll come to that as we go through. Let's have a look at the back cover. Entertain and inspire your players. The Dungeon Master's Guide provides the inspiration and guidance you need to spark your imagination and create worlds of adventure for your players to explore and enjoy. Inside you'll find world-building advice, tips and tricks for creating memorable dungeons and adventures, optional game rules, hundreds of classic D&D magic items, and many other tools to help you be a great Dungeon Master. When you're ready for even more, expand your adventures with the 5th edition Player's Handbook and Monster Manual. Well, I would have thought you'd have the Player's Handbook first of all, because it's got the actual rules. You don't need the Dungeon Master's Guide, and you cannot play the game without the Player's Handbook. Inside, well, the artwork is quite lovely. It's very detailed. I can see why people like this edition a lot. It's very approachable. One of my first comments has to be, though, they've added back this texture behind the pages. This was something they did a bit in 3rd edition, but they totally got rid of in 4th edition. And 4th edition looks so fresh, clean, and easy to read. Whereas this background clutter kind of makes the text slightly hazy. It's not difficult to read, but the 4th edition just looks so much better. We've got lots of credits here by Gary Gygax, Dave Arneson, and so many others involved. Jonathan Tweet, Monty Cook, so many more. Douglas Niles, Jeff Grubb. We've got a nice detailed page of contents showing us that Part 1 is about creating the world and multiverse. Part 2 is about creating adventures, NPCs, adventure environments, what to do between adventures and treasure. And Part 3 is running the game, including the Dungeon Master's workshop. We've got Appendix A for random dungeons, monster lists, maps, Dungeon Master inspiration, and an index at the back. We've got the introduction, talking about what the Dungeon Master is. Master of Worlds, Master of Adventures, Master of Rules. Knowing your players, laying out different things in it. Now, one of the things I loved about the 4th edition one was it characterized the different roles that players fall into, not just elf fighter, dwarf wizard, whatever. It lay out them almost in computer game terms, that some will be support characters, some will be tanks, etc., etc., because those carry across into role-playing games. You know, if you're being the high hit points character, you are probably going to be up front, protecting the other characters and taking the damage, so the wizards who are very fragile can use their ranged combat, can use their spells to absolutely destroy the enemy. And laying it out in those terms was very, very nice. They seem to have abandoned that somewhat, although perhaps we'll find it further on. We've got a chapter about creating a world of your own. Core assumptions. Gods oversee the world, much of the world is untamed, the world is ancient, conflict shapes the world's history, and the world is magical. So you can play around with all of these. It's your world, so if you want to have the world is a mundane place, it's new, it's known, monsters are uncommon, magic is everywhere. Gods inhabit the land or are entirely absent. And we're straight on to gods. Now, this seems unimportant to me. Creating a pantheon, having cults, we've got different deities there, forces and philosophies, humanoids and the gods. And then we're on to the things which are more important. Now, while having religions within a world, whether the gods are real or not is important. I think detailing out the gods, I'm not bothered by. Mapping your campaigns, so you've got provinces, kingdoms, continents, And then we're down to settlements. What are they for? Local colour. Are they going to be the home base? Are they an adventuring site instead? How big? Are they a village, a town, a city? What kind of atmosphere? Government. Different types of government there. The current commerce and currency. Languages and dialects. Factions and organisations. Magic in the world. Leading on to creating a campaign. Now, putting events in motion, when not to shake it up. World-shaking events, including disasters, assaults, different types, extinction or depletion, new organizations, discovery, how to track time within your campaign, different play styles, so hack and slash, immersive storytelling, something in between. Not quite as detailed as what we had in the 4th edition. Campaign themes, tiers of play going from level 1 to 4 in local heroes, heroes of the realm, masters of the realm, and masters of the world as they reach up to 20th level. Different flavours of fantasy, including Wuxia there. Creating a multiverse and different planes. Again, this is something which isn't important to me. I don't care whether there's different levels of hell if the players are never going to visit it. I'll add that when it's necessary. Ethereal planes, Feywild, the Shadowfell, the inner planes, including plane air, earth, fire, water. A map of there is, and a nice image indeed, although it does seem slightly muddy, as if it's not the right resolution. As if they've stretched that one out. Nice artwork, different dimensions, different creatures within that, the 9 hells, the outer planes. Then we're going to part 2, Master Adventures, showing a very nice image of a Tarrasque. How to create adventures. Elements of great play. So talking through different elements, very, very useful for starting Games Masters. We've got random tables, flicking through this very quickly. Framing events. Twists, creating encounters within it. So XP thresholds. Different encounters you can have. We've got tables and that for creating non-player characters, how to design them. Their flaws and secrets, whether they're going to be in the party. Creating villains, their methods, their weakness, what options they've got. Then we've got adventure environments. Are they adventure going to be in a building in a city or on an island, etc., etc. Exotic locations. What was it created for? What's its purpose? What's its history? Got a map there, sample dungeon map, although it'd be nice if they'd labelled that out and made it somewhat useful to us. Air quality. Travel montage approach to wilderness travel, hour by hour approach. Mapping the wilderness. Not really going into hex crawls, which is kind of sad, because that really is a different type of adventure and would be kind of useful. We've got random settlements, random buildings. And again, a town map here. Mapping a settlement, random urban encounters, and we've got this map of a town. But it's not labelled. I would much prefer if they'd labelled it out and made it useful to us, gave us a sample town, giving us some ideas by doing. Underwater, the sea. What else we've got? Traps, including various sample ones, what you do between adventures, so downtime activities. Are they building a stronghold or carousing, crafting magical items, running a business, selling magic items? We've got the different types of treasure. Because such a large portion of this book is going to turn into that. Treasure hoards, the different challenge levels, activating items, minor properties and major properties of magical items, random magic items. So lots of tables to roll on. And then we're on to what becomes the bulk of the book. We're under halfway through. And the rest of the book is mainly going to be just lists of magical items. So we've got so much here. Armour of Vulnerability, Berserker Axes, Candle of Invocations, Cloaks of Protection, Decanters, the Deck of Many Things, Demon Armour, Dwarven Plate, Gauntlets of Ogre Power, Horn of Valhalla, just flicking through these, Lantern of Revealing, Mariner's Armour, 9 Lifestealer, Pipes of Haunting, Potions of Animal Friendship, Quiver of Elhona, Now, in 4th edition, they moved this into the Player's Handbook. So the players only really needed the Player's Handbook. What I think they're trying to do here by putting all of this into the Dungeon Master's Guide, because players will want magic items. They'll want to shop through. Oh, my character's going to want a ring of... I was just looking at the rings there. Ring of spell storing or ring of swimming or whatever. They're going to want these robes. That's what my character's going to focus on. And that's what I'm basing my character around. You know, they're going to have this wondrous item. They're scimitars of speed. Spheres of annihilation. Staffs. And some very nice illustrations. I really like the cobra staff there. Trident and fish command. But players are going to want to go through this. So I think this is just an effort to get people to buy the Dungeon Master's Guide. We've got sentient magical items. Moonblades. Artifacts. How to destroy artifacts. Basically, good to do Lord of the Rings. Other rewards. Marks of prestige. Epic boons. So we've gone through an absolutely massive section there of magical items. We're getting right towards the back of the book now. Master of rules, you know, running the game, using ability scores, noticing other creatures. Role-playing, so becoming the NPCs, using your face and arms, engaging the players. Very, very handy tips. Using miniatures, ending chases, and actually having chases. We've got siege equipment, poisons, diseases, madnesses, non-combat challenges, which seem to be dealt with on a single paragraph. Dungeon Master's Workshop, so different things you can use. Hero points, sanity scores, different types of rest and options, plot points, action options, how to create your own monsters. Again, not as well detailed out as the 4th edition did, where it concentrated on this kind of stuff for the Dungeon Master. Monster features, monsters with classes, creating magic items, modifying classes. And then we've got the random dungeons, so you can roll on different things, whether passages, how wide they are, what doors there are. Dungeons with temples or shrines, treasure vaults, different random traps, dungeon dressings, just to make them descriptively different. Contents of containers, we've got monster lists. Obviously the monster manual would detail these out far more, but they're going by challenge ratings. And we've got some random maps here, which you can use. Although they're not detailed out. It'd be really nice if they would detail these out. Dungeon Master's Inspiration. So lots of things there. Arms and Equipment Guide by TSR. And we've got an index at the back, so you can easily find things. So, what do I think of the Dungeon Master's Guide for 5th edition? I think my decision was right. I didn't need it. You can find monsters, you can find magic items on the internet, and the only real use of this, if you're an experienced games master, is as an equipment book with all the magic items in there. I much preferred the layout of 4th edition, where the Dungeon Master's Guide was concentrating on tips for games masters, and the equipment had been moved into the Player's Handbook, where everybody had access to it, so players didn't need to buy an extra book. I thought that was far, far better. This one just strikes me as they wanted some extra money, so they put the equipment, the magic items into it, so everybody would want a copy. So, that was the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. As should be obvious, I'm pretty disappointed with that. Going back to the 4th edition one, which was so good, absolutely packed with information about playing a game, you know, setting up your campaign, dungeon mastering from the beginning right up to setting up your campaigns and adventures. Some great stuff in that. They trimmed all of that back to roughly half the book, so they could put all the magical items in there. And as I said, I think that's just a sales thing, because players aren't interested in dungeon mastering, but players are interested in having magical items to power up their characters. So lots more players will go out and buy a Dungeon Master's Guide packed with that kind of stuff in it. I think it was a purely cynical, money-based decision, and it's such a big disappointment after the fantastic 4th edition book, which is really weird because 4th edition has that bad reputation about being a game which was pretty poor. But it seems like the writers really had their minds in the right place for introducing people to Dungeons and Dragons. Anyway, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.